I know. Another Resident Evil video, Passion? What the hell, bro? Yes, I know, another video about Resident Evil. But here's the thing. Um, I have to talk some more about Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Because there has been a bit of a stir lately within the fan base, within the Resident Evil fan community, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Um, Capcom just recently explained why they don't want Leon as the main playable character for their game. And, I mean, when you really stop and think about it, what they had to say, their reasoning for it, makes a lot of sense to me. But hold your horses, because I have a lot of thoughts on this. And I think the fans definitely have good reason to chill out a little bit, because their response to this, their response to what Capcom had to say, to what these developers had to say, was, a bit rage-induced. So here's the thing. Capcom said, okay, the reason we have Grace Ashcroft as the main character, the playable character in the game, is that she is introverted and easily scared, easily startled. Like, she may be a trained FBI agent who can handle a gun. We've seen footage of that already. But she is also completely new to zombies and monsters. She's never dealt with anything like that before. So, like, she's new to survival horror, to put it bluntly. And I kind of went over this in my first Resident Evil 9 video, where I talked about, why I think it's cool that we have a new character. I do agree with Capcom on this. They brought up Leon S. Kennedy and why he's not in the game. They actually considered him originally. And this has a lot of thoughts going on in my head about how this game's going to turn out. And yes, Leon was going to be the main playable character in this game, very much like an RE4. But their reasoning is Leon is experienced. He's a veteran to this stuff. He's been through this stuff before. I mean, by the time you played RE4, he was already this trained super spy who was like, being snarky and sarcastic about big, monstrous boss fights. So, like, he had goofy one-liners about throughout the whole game about the monsters and shit he was fighting. So, like, don't get me wrong, that worked in RE4, and that was a different type of game. But it's clear that with Resident Evil 9, much like 7, when we first had Ethan, they're trying to go for a character here who has not dealt with that stuff before, is new to that stuff, and would jump at, like, every little thing that's going on, when it comes to creepy monsters and shit. Because, yeah, like, even a trained FBI agent, as young as she is, and, potentially inexperienced, especially when it comes to something like this, she's going to be a lot more, like, jumpy and startled. And that works really well when you're trying to make a Resident Evil game that is more leaning towards horror, and making the player anxious, and making the player feel what the character feels. So, I mentioned a lot of that in my first RE9 video. I covered that all already before Capcom even came out with this response. I agree with them 100%, but I will say this, before everybody, is like, Passion, you may not want these classic characters back, you may not care about that, but we, the fans, we want to see that shit back. Look, I'm a fan too. I love Resident Evil, I love Leon, I love all these characters. It's just, I do see their reasoning behind having Grace Ashcroft as the main playable character. Now, here's the thing. Capcom also brought up, in the same video where they brought this stuff up, like, that Resident Evil 9 Requiem is going to be all about, like, bringing back a lot of these elements throughout the franchise. The title, Requiem, means, like, a grand wrap-up, like a, it's going back to Raccoon City. It's going to be bringing back all of these elements from the Raccoon City outbreak. It's like we're literally revisiting the ghost, the remains, the ruins of Raccoon City. So, like, yeah, that has me thinking they're gonna bring back Leon. Leon's definitely gonna be in this game. Even if he's not the playable character, the main playable character, he might not be playable at all. He might just be a secondary character that ends up showing up in the story. And the reason they're saying now, like, oh yeah, there's not going to be any Leon, the reason they're saying that is because they want it to be a surprise. They didn't announce that Chris was going to be in RE7 by the end of that game either. I mean, in Village, it was pretty heavily advertised, but that's different. You know, like, I think they're trying to surprise the fans. Here's my theory. I don't think it's just going to be Leon either. I think Jill might show up. I think Ada might show up. When you think about Raccoon City and all the characters that are tied to the past of that city and the outbreak, I think a lot of characters might show up. They might have cameo appearances. How big of a role they play, or like if they have like playable sections, I don't know how far they're going to go with it. But I do think Capcom is being cagey. I do think they're just holding back on that stuff. They don't want to show that. They don't want to reveal that. I do think other characters are going to show up. Partly because in 7 and Village, you know, they had Chris showing up. They had Chris, you know, playing a role. And part of the reason I think Leon is the most likely to show up, even if no other characters do, Leon definitely will. Because it hasn't been since, not since RE6 has Leon been like a character in the series that has a big role to play. And it goes even further back if you want to talk about like, you know, good Resident Evil games. He hasn't been around since 4. So it's like, you know, especially after the success of the RE4 remake, where a lot of people met Leon for the first time, I definitely think Leon is going to show up because he's kind of overdue at this point. Well, Jill might be even more overdue. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but I definitely think we're going to get some classic characters in this game. First of all, again, part of the reason I think they're going to bring back classic characters and make a lot of references to the original Outbreak is because Grace Ashcroft herself is the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, a character from Resident Evil Outbreak. Now, here's the thing. I don't think that's just a random reference. Part of it may be because the director of RE9 also directed 7 and possibly Outbreak, I think. I think that's why because he left stuff about Alessa, little Easter eggs to her character in 7 as well. So, like, part of it could be that, but I also think Alyssa Ashcroft being a survivor of the Outbreak is part of it. I think we're going to see other characters that were also survivors of the original Outbreak, which would mainly be, like, Leon, maybe Claire? I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. Hell, we haven't seen Claire in a while either. I haven't seen some of these characters in a while. So it's possible. I'm going back on my original thoughts here just a little bit, because I know in the original video I was actually against classic characters coming back, but the more I think about it, I'm having a little change of heart here, not only because I think Capcom's going to do it, but because it would make sense. It would make sense this time around. Now, the way they shoehorned Chris into 7 and Village, I wasn't really with that. To me, that was unnecessary. But in this game, because they're returning to Raccoon City, because of the importance of that and the weight of that, it's like, yeah, it would be kind of weird to leave out those characters, right? Like, it would be weird to leave out Leon and some of the other Outbreak or Raccoon City survivors. Like, yeah, they're probably going to bring those characters up. Capcom, I don't know, man. Knowing how they like to, you know, surprise their fans and stuff, they're going to put other characters in there. Come on, you know they're going to. Leon's definitely going to be in this game. I almost bet, like, everything on it. I just have a gut feeling like he's going to be in this game. Now, whether it's just a cameo, Chris Redfield style, like Village, where he's, like, a side character, which personally I think would work pretty well, because, again, who is the best character to bring back from the original Raccoon City Outbreak? Leon, right? I mean, he was a Raccoon City cop who was there on his first day, you know, as a rookie. Like, who has a better connection to Raccoon City than him as a Resident Evil character, right? Like, he would be the guy to bring back. This would be the time to bring Leon back. He's definitely going to be in this game. Just because we haven't seen him in the early trailers doesn't mean shit. They know that fans want to see him, and they themselves were originally planning for him to be the main playable character, which means he's definitely going to be in the game. They just decided, okay, maybe for like the first half or, you know, just a big majority of the game, they're like, well, we still want players to be scared. We want them to play as somebody who is fresh, who is new, but still has ties to Raccoon City, to the Outbreak, because of her mom. So it works on both levels. It's like they still decided she's the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft. Okay. You know, because if they wanted to just have a fresh character, and they had no other reason for doing this, they wouldn't have that connection. So my thought is Leon's still going to be in there. It's just he'll probably show up later. Whether he has a playable section himself or not, I think he's going to show up. I definitely think he's going to show up, and he's going to be a big part of the story, even if it's towards the end or the last third or the second half of the game. And that would line up because Village kind of worked that way, and I think it would make more sense this time. Like I said, I didn't care much for Chris in the way he was used in Village, but it would make so much sense to have Leon in this one, actually. It would be kind of a cool moment because, yeah, he would be going back to the ruins of Raccoon City, so it'd be like, there'd be some weight to that. And that's why I think maybe it would even be cool if, like, Ada showed up, or Claire, or something like it. That'd be kind of cool. So we'll see. I'm kind of down for that. Like, we still don't know who the main villain is. We got that weird guy in the chair who's, whispering about Ashcroft's name, and I'm like, who the hell is that? But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this all comes together. But my point is, fans can chill out. They could stop worrying. I know a lot of people are like, man, there's no Leon. That's their excuse. Oh, Leon's not scared. Oh, he's not going to be as afraid of shit. Oh, who cares? We loved him in 4. It's like, yeah, but 4, if they really are leaning more into creepy horror in this game, and it definitely looks like they are from the footage they're showing, I understand them wanting you to play as this newbie, as this new character. I think it's a good way to go. And the fact of the matter is, again, Leon might be playable later on, or at the very least play a big role in the story later in the game. And don't forget, this is 30 years after Raccoon City was destroyed, so he'd probably be a little older, he'd probably be a little more, like, experienced and grizzled, and it'd be kind of cool to see an older, like, middle-aged Leon at this point. You know, we know Chris was already kind of an older guy by the time we saw him in Village, so, like, I'd like to see this older Leon who's like, Raccoon City, brings back memories, you know what I mean? Like, that would be cool. I'm down with that now. It works for me. Kind of like in Metal Gear Solid 2, when, like, Raiden was the playable character, but then, like, Snake played this secondary role where he was the mentor. He was kind of like the experienced guy. I would like to see that with Leon in this game. I think that would actually be cool. It would like add a whole new dimension to his character, you know. But yeah, still excited for RE9, very excited. And there's also another rumor going around that the monster in the trailer, because we hear chains in the background before this monster pops up on the screen. At first time I watched it, I thought it was just a random zombie, but then I started hearing, like, rumors that, is that Lisa Trevor? I think that's actually really cool, because I've been playing the remake recently. I've been revisiting it, just kind of in celebration of them announcing this game. And yeah, Lisa Trevor, that would make a lot of sense, actually. At first I was like, nah. Then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, why would we hear chains in the background? That's a very specific thing to add to this monster in the trailer. Why do we hear chains? And then I thought about it and I was like, Lisa Trevor didn't die in the remake. We never actually see her die. She's not defeated. You don't kill her. She just takes her mom's head or skull or whatever it is at the spoiler or whatever, and she jumps down a fucking, like, chasm or whatever, and we don't see her again for the rest of the game. But, like, given that she was this, like, undying super zombie, I do wonder, like, that could be her. She was in the Arklay Mountains. She was in the mansion, so, like, that's right outside Raccoon City. She could have survived the blast. She could still be roaming around. That would be really cool. And she's probably, like, further mutated. I mean, this is 30 years later. She probably looks a lot worse and would be, like, even more grotesque. She might have mutated into something even worse. I really hope that's Lisa Trevor. That would be a cool, like, callback to the original game. That'd be crazy. Because we see in the footage that there is something, I think it might be that monster is following around Grace. That'd be really freaking cool. Yeah. So that's my thoughts, though, on the recent news about Resident Evil 9. A lot of stuff has been coming up about this game lately, and I just think, you know, fans still have plenty of reason to be excited about this game, especially since I really think you're still gonna get your Leon, man. Leon's gonna be in the game, so, you know, chill out, folks. Chill out. This is Capcom. They know what they're doing at this point. You know, they know what they're doing. I think this game's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be really interesting. Um, but you tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think my predictions are off? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.